Hey, what's up? This is Jay from Orgy. You're watching John the Ninja.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja live in the dojo, aka the Dojang, aka the John the Ninja Studios, and you know this, man. So, the lead singer of this band I have today has such a wonderful resume in music, not just in doing production, but the people he's met, the stuff he's done. It's amazing to think about how far he's gone in the music industry, and the band that he has is just a combination of all those musical influences. They even named themselves after that idea. The band's name is Orgy, and the lead singer, Jay Gordon. Let me tell you a little bit about Jay because he's an amazing individual. When I say he's done it all, he has done it all. He's done production, he's done singing, he has DJ'd, he's even I will say this, he's even modeled for Calvin Klein. So back to it, Jay is from San Francisco, where his dad was a part of the music industry, and he's met and seen a lot of great music artists. His godfather is Sly Stone. The man was in studio with Stevie Wonder messing with the boards. Another story for another time, but he's literally done it all when it comes to the music industry. His influences, as I already said, were new wave, rock, punk, 80s, everything. And when it comes down to it, he formed his band Orgy in 1994. And thanks to his really good friend and fellow musician, Korn lead singer Johanathan Davis, they were signed to Elementary Records, where they released a plethora of material, having albums such as Candy Ass, Vapor Transmission, and Punk Static Paranoia, and going on to sell over 20 million records. That's no small feat. I don't care what decade you're in. And then just continue to ride that success, touring with bands like Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Rammstein, even toured with Ice Cube. The band took a short hiatus but returned due to fan demand and his son saying, "Dad, you should probably get back out and do this again." But with a new lineup, Orgy has returned for the revival tour, and they're coming to Parsippany, New Jersey for Dark Side of the Calm this next April. So guys, without further ado, I bring to you Jay Gordon. Good sir, how you doing?
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, first things first, sir. I'm amazed by the amount of people you've met in the music industry. Not only have you met so many people on your own touring with your band Orgy, but you also have met so many people through your dad. The one thing that blew my mind is you are the godson of Sly Stone. He is beyond a legend. I'm wondering what got your dad start in the music business. How did he get into this business management role to where you were exposed to music at a very young age? For the listeners that don't know, you even went to a BB King show. You got sat on his lap as he was performing. You were in studio one time with, oh my goodness, it's crazy, Stevie Wonder, and you were messing with the boards. And it's just, you have so many stories. I'm curious to how your dad originally got into the music business so you could have these opportunities in music.
I've never really asked him that. Like he just was around the scene, I guess, and he ended up meeting a lot of people, and he's Lou is a go getter, so he did what he always does, and just started meeting people. He managed Tower of Power, was like his first big thing. I'm sure that's how he met Sly and everybody else, and then Sly became my godfather. But yeah, I don't really know how he got into the game actually, but he did. He worked it out and got he got some bands signed in like 76 or something like that, and they were called Kraken, and he just kind of went from there. So he's always been in the game.
So, being that you've been in the music industry for so long and having had such an assortment of experiences being with music legends, not just the ones I mentioned, but also in rock and pop and all these names that you've been associated with, I was wondering who was an artist that, even though you grew up in that business, you still saw them and you were like, holy crap, they just mesmerized you and starstruck you.
I'd have to say David Bowie. He was very different than everybody else, and he was great.
Interesting. Were you ever able to meet Bowie or were you able to converse with him?
No, in fact, I never really even met him. And I'll tell you, probably the best moment was watching Michael Jackson, and that whole session of the song was called "Working Day and Night," and getting to watch that as a kid was wow. like something else, like from start to finish, pretty much, you know.
I can only imagine how awesome and epic that must have been to see Michael Jackson actually work in studio. Having been in this industry, did you ever think you would actually be a performer? Because again, you're in the booths, you're working, you know how to do production. Your dad gave you a tambourine when you were younger, and that's what started you in playing the instruments. But did you ever see yourself actually being a talent that would go out and be a touring musician?
Not at all. I really didn't know things were gonna happen until way later.
So, what was that moment you decided, okay, I'm gonna go and be a musician and tour and actually live that life? Because being in production and doing the studio work or being a studio musician is radically different as to being somebody that's out there touring.
It kind of just dawned on me that I should do something. Like, you know, I was starting to produce a lot of things, and being, you know, I've always been around a lot of musicians and whatnot, and you know, just recording things, and started putting some demos together, and then I kind of just sang on it too. So I played the, you know, I programmed some drum machine stuff, and then put all the instrumentation on it with like 7 string guitars and whatnot, and then you know, I started singing on it just to, you know, just kind of give it like a like an identity. And then I met the guys from Korn and was working with those guys, you know, just kind of, you know, just being homies, you know. And then they liked this demo that I did, and then it kind of snowballed from there. So
Interesting. So, is this how you became the lead singer of the band Orgy or just started singing in general?
I was playing bass in a lot of bands, or in a couple bands, and that's kind of where my head was. Couldn't find really a singer, so I kind of put together a band, and then I ended up being the singer and got a bass player. You know, got Paige, so that's what happened.
You've been around some of the most prolific singers of my generation. Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots, you and Johanathan Davis of Korn have been great friends. When you guys were touring together and all these epic tours you've gone on, were you able to go back and forth on different singing techniques or how to perform? Again, when you think of these singers, just an unbelievable amount of talent. So I was curious if you guys ever just sat down, aside from hanging out and partying, and just go like, "Hey man, I saw you on stage. You should try this," or "Hey bro, man, my throat's killing me when I do this," and then somebody would go, "Oh, you know what? That happens to me all the time. Try this." Was there any camaraderie back and forth or lessons like that?
No, I mean, watching all those guys, you know, in the studio, you know, everybody from Durst to Jonathan to um, you know, Scott Weiland, all those guys. Like Scott Weiland was really you know, influential in the sense where I got thrown into this production thing where he showed up and I didn't know he was coming, you know, and he just came in and laced all the harmonies, all the back for this Wonder Girls project that Josh Abraham and myself were kind of co-producing at the time, and then um, so he, you know, I learned a lot of technique, maybe stuff like, or how quickly he could get through stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but I think I learned more from my uncles and stuff when I was growing up. You know, as far as how you should lay vocals or whatever. They didn't really give me any pointers, but I would definitely watch. I don't think they needed to because I was literally like I would eat it up. Like working with you know, Chino and Abe and I from the Deftones, we like did a song together one time, and just watching him sing, even if it was like 2:30 in the morning or 3 in the morning, you know, just watching him do some stuff was really a cool way to see, you know, well, he was incredible, but like, you know, just watching those guys how they did their techniques, you know, was all very helpful. So
Now that it's years later, having been through all these great shows and had great times, how do you process the fact that we have lost a lot of these musicians? Have you ever felt a sense of survivor's guilt? The fact that some of your friends and a lot of your acquaintances have passed on, or have you been able to cope with it pretty well considering like nobody wants to lose a friend, they're gonna miss them, but how have you handled the deaths of some of these really great musicians like Chester Bennington or Scott Wild, etc., even Static X?
obviously it bothers me that they're gone. You know, as far as surviving, I mean, I can't really say, what any of them were going through at the time, but I've always been available to my friends as far as if they ever wanted to talk or anything like that. But I wasn't really like with Scott. It wasn't really like a tight thing, even though we were in the same unit, like the Wonder Girls thing. It was more like like a fun project for us to do. So we kind of just took turns doing things. Everybody in that band, and I wouldn't be around all the time, him or anything like that. Chester, I he was really close with my guitar players from Orgy, more so. Although we got along great, and I feel like he's still he's still here in a crazy way. Um, he was amazing, very talented. All of these guys were super talented guys, like and it just blows my mind that they're gone. But it's sad that they left kids behind and things like that as well. Um, but I don't feel like any weird, like I made it through this, or I mean I'm grateful that I was able to overcome a lot of those things, that, let's say, the bad things, that make you want to do certain things or whatever. I've been lucky enough to overcome a lot of that, so we'll see. It's still a work in progress, and I'm just happy to be here.
And that's tough to think about all that. I've had interactions with Scott Weiland and Chester Bennington, and just thinking, sometimes it does bother me. I remember hearing the news and it was just like, really? So, are you still close to Johnathan Davis of Korn? I know you guys were really tight. I know he's been going through some tough stuff recently as well. I was wondering if you guys still kept in touch and were still as close as you guys were back in the day.
Yeah, I talked to Jonathan, pretty fairly regularly. There was a hiatus for a few years, um, but just we just you kind of like when you're just busy doing stuff, you kind of just like you realize, oh, whoa, I haven't talked to this person in a long time. He's very, obviously he was the biggest influence in my career. He's the guy that signed me, and he really helped me along. So I'm very grateful to him, and he knows that.
So, as we segue, I have to know, there is a story of you guys, Orgy and Rammstein, obliterating the 76ers away team locker room in Philadelphia. You know I'm out here in New Jersey. You know I'm in Philly all the time. I have to know, what the hell happened that you guys caused $27,000 worth of damage in the locker room, man? No offense, but what happened?
I mean, those guys are hilarious as fuck. Like they're like super fun. We would like party with those guys, drink a lot of beer, tons of beer, like just too many. And they were our homies. Like we just kind of got along really good with them. They were always somewhat close to us dressing room wise, so it was always like there'd be across the hall or anything. And besides Korn being our like people that signed us and everything else, so we're trying to like take it easy on the Korn guys, so we're just gonna have fun with whoever's around. And Ramstein was just so much fun to hang out with and stuff. And I don't know, they just started. We would get into some crazy, they were like the ultimate like fun guys out there on the road. They would be, trying to like, instigate fights and stuff like that. Just fun fights. So I think like literally some beer bottles started flying across the room, and we're like ducking and throwing beer bottles back at them. They're crazy. You know what I mean? Like I definitely crazy. We started like pushing like lockers over that, kind of like a domino effect where you push one and then it goes all the way around the room and stuff like that. So yeah, so with hour and a half later, we're like, holy shit, we destroyed like this whole dressing room. Like, it was like the visiting team's dressing room or something, but like it was crazy. They had a cook in there the whole time cooking food while we're having this huge fight. It was hilarious, like and we're throwing axes into the ceiling, just doing stupid shit that I would never suggest anybody else do. So
Well, it must have been a hell of a job, because I've been in that locker room and the remodeling now is superb. So kudos to you guys. But damn, man, I could only imagine. You must have had some good times. You and Orgy are about to embark on another tour. You guys are going back out on the road. It's been a little bit because of the pandemic, but you are a seasoned veteran at being able to do this now. You know that it can take a physical toll as well as a mental toll on a person. So I was curious to how you were prepping, or if you've started prepping for this tour, and how you were actually going about it, what you were focusing on to make sure you were ready to embark on it.
I'm working on that now. I'm about to go on a hike after I get off the phone with you. Just kind of trying to keep it together, playing a little basketball, throwing the football around, doing some jockey kind of stuff, just being a jock. I don't know. But yeah, hiking and stuff like that really helps.
So for a person that would go on their first tour, somebody getting back into it, what would you suggest more as far as workout routine? Would you say, hey, just focus on the cardio, or would you say everything's important, just focus on that? Just get out there and be active.
All of the above, you want to keep your body in really good shape, but touring helps to keep your body in really good shape. You're up on stage, it's like really hot up there, so you're doing like a workout the whole time, so you don't want to go in without doing anything. You get on stage the first night and you're just like, whoa, that was way too much. So jumping rope helps, like before the shows and stuff like that, going on a little jog or something. I like to do those kind of things to keep me healthy.
So now that you're getting back out on tour, what were some factors that you really wanted to hit home with management, saying, hey, I want this, that, and this for when we go out and perform, as far as stage or, heading out to certain places? What were the things you were thinking about? Even though it's a small tour, these things do matter, because usually these tours can set up the bigger tour, which I'm assuming you guys are doing.
Actually, just getting to play for people again is that's like a godsend right there. I'm stoked to just be out there. Like, we're just focusing on getting the band really, really tight, and we're going to be playing some new material and stuff like that. This first little run is really kind of short. We're just doing a couple shows here, then we fly out to your dark side of the con thing, and then we come back and do some West Coast dates, and then we're going to push back the regular dates a couple of months, and then go back out again. So then we're going to do like a full scale United States run. So like a warm up kind of run, and then just looking forward to perform for people again. That it's after the pandemic. It's like I was wondering if it was going to be possible again. So I'm excited about that.
So who would you say out of this new lineup for Orgy you are most musically in sync with? Somebody that you think of AC/DC and Malcolm and Angus just being on time, or the whole band being on time. You drop a ball, as soon as it hits the ground, everybody hits the note at the same time. Who in the band now would you say you guys just have this musical connection where you just link and it's pretty easy to play together? Would you say it's Carlton? Because he doesn't get a lot of respect that he should when it comes to being in this game, and everyone else is a phenomenal player. But when I look at Orgy, Carlton has a lot of years and experience under his belt. He's a very, very underrated musician.
I would say Carlton. I love all the guys. We all get along really well. Martin's crazy. He's fun. He's a great drummer. But Carlton and I do the bulk of the writing together and stuff like that. I'm in the studio with him most, and we're really in sync with each other for the most part. And you're right, he doesn't get enough credit because he's really awesome. Like he's fucking dope. But yeah, like I get along great with Carly. I call him Carly, and we crack jokes on stage. We have a blast. So, but I have fun with all the guys.
And you guys have been friends since the 90s, so we're going back a couple of decades. So you guys have a lot in common when it comes to not only being able to create songs and perform, but you also both have great production skills, him included. And I'm curious, what's the back and forth like for you guys, especially since, you guys are in North Hollywood and you've been doing a lot of production since the studio burned down a couple of years ago. What is the process you guys have when you go in and then start bouncing ideas back and forth when it comes to recording?
He's got his studio at his place, and I have a studio as well. here in North Hollywood, and so he lives really close. He can always bounce over, just get some quick scratch tracks on anything I need, and then he goes back to his house, lays his guitars the way he wants them to, come across. And we just communicate back and forth. So he'll take sessions to his house, that I start, and then he'll usually I'll come up with the foundation for a song, and then give the stuff to him. He takes it home, laces it up with all the stuff that he wants, and I kind of call him kitchen sink because he throws in everything but the kitchen sink. And then his rebuttal for that is always, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. so he throws a lot of, he definitely laces everything up, and then some.
So it seems that there's not procrastination, but more stumbling blocks when you do vocals. It seems that you're really hands on with the music, you're always on it, but then when it comes to doing the vocal parts, there's a stumbling block, there's a little bit of a delay. I know your dad helps you guys every now and again, and he's usually saying, hey, let's get the show on the road. So why is it, or what is it when you do vocals that makes it harder to get done than laying down the instrumentals and make sure everything flows well? What stumbling blocks have you run into or continue to run into when it comes to doing vocals?
It's tough because there's not always someone around to punch me in or do something like that. So I end up running back and forth between the room and the vocal booth or whatever. Sometimes I could just bring the mic in with me and sit next to the computer and do it there, which I did kind of candy ass that way. So I do like to do it both ways, but my favorite part of being in a band is like I love putting together the music and everything, and I love playing live, and those are my favorite parts about it. Like playing live is my absolute favorite part, but I do have a hard time. It's hard to be produce your own vocals or something like that. Like sometimes you don't feel as selective as or sometimes you don't feel like you're as diverse as you'd like it to come across, and so it's tough. Now I have a couple of people that I rely on to come in and punch me in, and that are producers in their own rights. So this kid Robbie is helping me out right now. He's really, really good. He's awesome. And another friend of mine that lives up the street that is really, really good. He's in a great band, and so they're kind of like working with me, kind of doing some additional vocal production on this new record. So it's working out really, really good. But yeah, getting me the vocal booth is not the easiest thing.
So what is it about mixing then that you're hesitant to do when it comes to your band? You've done a lot of other mixing for other musicians, but what is it about mixing your work that you're a little hesitant or you pull back on?
I mix other people's stuff all the time, but I don't necessarily like to mix my own. Again, it's tough because I like a lot of different parts and stuff, and then I kind of want to throw too many things in. So I'm not. I try to stay away from that for my own records.
With the pandemic, was there any side projects other than Orgy that you were working on, or was there something that you're currently working on now that you can elaborate on?
I have some things that I can't really talk about, like that I'm working on right now. But you'd never know who it was, so I'm just gonna say that, and it's working out really, really well. And it's just funny how that works out. Like it's better that people don't really maybe know who they're watching DJ up there. So.
And I find it interesting that you would say that we couldn't guess, because you've really worked with almost everybody in this music industry. I mean, one of my favorite stories is you were working with Ice Cube, and you guys had to be protected by the Nation of Islam. You guys, Orgy and Rammstein, toured with Ice Cube, and there was death threats and
Oh, that was crazy.
But man, that's just a cool story. With the pandemic, what were some projects that you were able to do and are able to mention? Or if there's any projects that are still on your mind that you started and you want to finish, or etc.
I did a song with Skrillex a long time ago and never put it out. And it could make an appearance anytime at this point, because it's taken on quite the journey as far as that goes. Um, it's a pretty cool track. I'm gonna see if we can try to squeeze it in on this record. I don't know that we can, but it's something that I never did because I just didn't want to be like, oh, I did a track with Skrillex, let me just put it out. Like I don't know. I was just kind of he was working with me for a minute before he like really blew up, and we just kind of got a couple little ideas off, and never really it didn't go much further than that because he just became like this overnight sensation, literally. And so he rather than he called me up one day and was like, I'm going to turn you on to this other guy, Eric, and he's great too. And so I ended up working with Eric. He's great. And so yeah, it's just a weird thing. But collaboration wise, I'm definitely going to press a couple people to, as things get a little further with this record, probably in the next couple of weeks, I'll approach a couple people, but there's no insane collaboration right now, but there actually will be. So, I think I'm, I've already kind of, put the feelers out there that I'd like to maybe do something with you, whoever you are. And yeah, so I'm working on that.
So you guys are getting back out on the road. Usually bands do what you do, where they go out, they test the new material, they get tight again before they go on this bigger tour to promote the album. How many songs off the new album would you say you have ready in the repertoire that you're hoping to actually perform on this current tour?
Probably 3 or 4, because people like to hear like a little bit of the old stuff, a little bit of the new stuff. So we're going to be playing 3 or 4, maybe 5 of the newer ones, but more likely 3 or 4.
Now, you are the original member, so how democratic do you have the band? I assume it's pretty much, everybody put in their 2 cents and then we see where we go from there.
Definitely open to whatever anybody in the band wants to play. We kind of mix, we kind of talk about it amongst the band. It's very democratic, like you said. So we talk about it, and we also go off of what the fans say. And that's, we kind of go, split it down the seam there and figure out what songs we're going to play from there. So we're going to be doing that in the next week or so, putting together set lists and everything.
So you guys are, again, top of the bill for Dark Side of the Con, coming to New Jersey. You guys initially came out of hiatus because of the fan demand. Your son said, Dad, you should probably do this again. And the fan demand, the fan calling for Orgy to come back out on the road actually brought the band to life again. Walk me through that feeling. Is it validity? Do you feel a calling? Because, everybody's always humbled to be like, hey, I'm that good, people want to see me. But walk me through how you feel about this, because it's definitely different when it's such a demand that the people want you. Then you have to go, okay, and not only do I want to do this, but I have to do this for the people.
Well, I'm very grateful to be here. That's what that lets me know. And I love the fans, and I love new fans, and anybody that wants to, come see us is always welcome. Things like that. I'm just happy to be here. Mainly, that's the feeling that I get from that.
What's your favorite song from your Orgy repertoire? What is that song either you love to play live, or that's the song for some reason you just happen to love it the most?
I think I like probably Sucker Face the best. And I like Dissension because we go into, which is from the first record, we go into, Dissension goes into a version of Prodigy Smack My Bitch Up. So I tend to like that one the best. That's my favorite.
I gotta go Fiction. That's probably my favorite Orgy song. What's a moment you had a fellow musician tell you, hey man, because of your influence, I was able to do this, or etc.? Do you have any stories or anybody that come to mind readily where it was, they walked up to you and your peer basically said, hey man, because of your work, you inspired me or you helped me?
God, I can't think of it. Like, I mean, those moments happen, and new up and coming bands, like will say, oh, I used to listen to you all the time or whatever. Every time I hear that, it's always like a blessing, and I really love that people paid attention or whatever, back in the day, because you put a lot of work into this and you would like to see it do something, So again, like I'm just happy when, I'm happy to hear it from a fan, from anybody, like it's always nice to hear that kind of stuff. It makes you feel like, you want to keep going and stuff like that. But, I've had some people that are in big bands now that were like, bro, I used to listen to you all the time and stuff like that. And it's not even important for me to say who or what, it's just, it's always good. And it's glad, I'm glad to have been an influence on anyone.
So there was another song, Orgy, was in the talks of performing instead of Blue Monday, or going to do it with Blue Monday for the album. And that song was I Know There's Something Going On by Frida Lindstedt. I believe she's part of ABBA. And it was her and Phil Collins. Phil plays a hell of a drum beat on it. I was wondering if you guys ever got around to actually recording it, and if you would release it, or if it has been released.
We did a version of it. We started to mess around with it, and I think we just went with the Blue Monday thing. But it was called Something Going On was the name of the song, and it's a cool song. It's just like in the '80s, it was kind of like I think a little ahead of its curve, So I kind of liked it, and I kind of wanted to fuck with that. But like we decided to go with the Blue Monday thing, which turned out to be a better choice. So.
Indeed, it did. You're a single father and taking care of your kids. Walk us through how you divide your time. You're not the only parent in the music industry, but being that you are a single father, and being a single parent adds a whole nother dimension of complexity to it. How do you go about your day making sure everything's taken care of, making sure that Orgy's good, making sure that the kids are good, and still being able to balance that life? I feel that's something a lot of people, not just musicians, but parents in general, have an issue with being able to balance their life and get everything done.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's way too cool to hang out with me. So, Jax, we're talking about my son Jax. He goes and he skateboards and does his thing, and he's really into his like TikTok following. He's got like 50,000-60,000 people that which is pretty crazy. He's just busy doing his own thing, but I get up in the morning and take them to, no matter how late I've been up, like in the studio or whatever, I have to get up and get them to school in the morning, feed them breakfast, get them to school, make sure everybody's like, teeth brushed and all that kind of stuff. And then, then I'll go work for a few hours, or do stuff like this, like interviews and whatnot. And then I have to pick them up like around 3 or 4, from their after school programs or whatever. My son usually just goes to the gym, so I just meet him there. And then I bring him back, make him dinner, and then make sure everybody's good to go, and go back to the studio for a few hours, maybe slide back by the house, check on him. But luckily the studio's close, so I could kind of bounce back and forth. Then just make sure everybody's, in bed, and they pretty much can take care of themselves towards the evening, after dinner. They really don't need me for anything else, like, so, I make sure everybody does their homework, get that stuff done, and then kind of, check everybody off to bed. And then sometimes I'll go back and work for another couple hours, or just call it a night, depending.
Awesome. And considering that you are working on a new album, how are you planning to release it? Are you going to do it the old school way with the one full album, or are you guys going to do it the way you have been with one single and the EPs?
Well, I think the way that this album is going to be released is one song at a time, so I don't think there's going to be an actual, like, I think it's just going to culminate into a 13 or 14 songs it needs to be. So there's no real schedule on that. It's just going to be one song at a time, kind of like a lot of bands do it now. So you're just putting out new material and things like that every once in a while. We have a new one coming out called Shady AF that's coming out in probably in the next 2-3 weeks, and then they're going to be a little more regular. So,
and we are interested in hearing that. This is always my last question, but it's always the most important. What is the best piece of advice somebody has given you that readily comes to mind? Something as trivial as don't buy a tour bus, rent one, or something as important as just live, and then an explanation of how that, really does make a difference when you just do what you want. What's something somebody told you that when you heard it, you're like, you know what? I gotta stick with that. That's really, really good advice.
I've heard this from several people, and Chino from the Deftones for one. A couple of mixing guys. They always tell me just have fun. Have fun. Have fun. Doing what you do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work if it's not fun. So I guess that's why those guys have had the longevity that they've had. Like things that people have said in passing. Just like have fun. Jonathan's given me a lot of advice, but it's always been like brotherly type stuff, stuff like that. But have fun. Don't take in the moment. Have a good time doing it is the main thing. So that's been the most useful.
That is true. You got to stick to what you love. Has there been a time in your career where you were at that point where it's like, yo, this isn't fun anymore, I got to walk away, or you were really contemplating, hey, you know what, this is it? Was that what happened with the first hiatus of Orgy?
There's been a couple times where I felt like that. It wasn't. I didn't necessarily plan on having a hiatus of any kind. I've always had fun. I still did music during that whole time. I have thousands and thousands of songs. Eventually that maybe we'll never either see the light of day, or maybe we'll see the light of day. I don't even really know. But I never really stopped, and I've always had fun. So.
Indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jay Gordon of Orgy coming to Parsippany, New Jersey. Don't forget to check him out at the Dark Side of the Con. He is headlining with the band. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have a hell of a time watching that show, and I expect you to be there. And good sir, I can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for your time. It truly was a blessing and an honor.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me, man. It was a great interview. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, sir. For everyone else, don't forget to check out Orgy on this current tour and the new album that'll be coming out pretty soon with all those great singles. As always, guys, remember, be smart, be mindful, and God bless you guys. I will see you soon. Until next time, Ninja out. This video is sponsored by VALOR Bare Knuckle Boxing, Ken Shamrock's premier boxing league. VALOR BK. No gloves, no cages, no clinches, no dirty boxing. Fast-paced fighting the way it was meant to be, by fighters, for fighters. VALOR BK. Showing off the God-given talent of fighters all around. VALOR BK. Check it out.
Baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.